How's it going? My name is JP. I'm going to be showing you guys how to drop an M20 out of your E30. So I already did it. I'm just going to be showing you basically what you do. I probably should have done it while I was doing it, but so first thing you're going to want to do is unhook everything that's connected from the motor to the actual chassis. So there's going to be a wiring harness. You can see I have it over here. This side's going to be inside, right where the ECU goes. You're going to want to pull this out into the engine bay. Okay. And then on this bar up here, this bar, you're going to unhook this main power right here, and everything else, which is going to be the starter and everything else being powered on the chassis or the engine harness. You're going to want to unhook the O2 sensor. Okay. You're going to want to unhook the heater core lines for your coolant. Okay. It doesn't matter what order you do this in, but you're going to have to unhook most of this. So the next thing is the steering shaft column, whatever you want to call it. You can unhook it from this side or this side, doesn't really matter, but what I did is just undid this bolt. I didn't pry it off of this joint at all yet. Where is it? Right here. I didn't pry it off there yet. I just took that bolt out, and then when you lift the chassis up, it's just gonna pull right out. So after you do that, you're gonna want to unhook the fuel lines. You got this main line, the return line, and then I believe there's a breather. Yeah, there's a breather line that goes into the bottom of the intake, or sorry, the bottom of the throttle body. So you're gonna want to get those out. Another thing you want to do, unless you want to bring the whole power steering system with you, is unhook the main power steering hose. And then I just took the other one off of this nipple right here, and it's actually still on the motor. So after you do that, you're going to want to unhook the rest of the coolant line. So there's gonna be one under the reservoir. If you have a late model, it's gonna be on the driver's side. Early model, it's gonna be somewhere over here. You're gonna want to unhook that, and then to be able to get the actual motor out, you're gonna have to pull out the radiator. So there's gonna be two little clamp things up here. You're gonna want to undo those. Mine didn't have them, so I'm not sure how to actually do it. But pull the radiator out. Once you pull the radiator out, basically just look for anything that's connected to the engine and the chassis connected together. So one thing I forgot to do is this is where the oil pan grounds out. So I had it hooked on there, and when I was pulling it up, it kind of bent it down. So try not to do that. Make sure to take off this ground. So after you take off that ground, get off power steering lines, coolant lines, and then another thing I almost forgot to do is on the intake throttle body, there's going to be a hose that connects into the brake booster. You're going to want to undo that. Basically, once you undo all of that stuff. Okay, so now for the bigger stuff. So you're going to want to come under here where the transmission mounts up. You're going to want to undo both these bolts, so the transmission is going to be hanging. Take them all the way out. It's going to be nuts, sorry, not bolts, but it's going to be hanging down, kind of sagging, and you're going to want to undo all the shifter assembly. So mine just had this little nut that was holding it on the back, and the whole thing came out together. So transmission mount's going to be mounted up to these two nuts up here. You're going to want to undo those. It's going to be sagging. After that, you're going to come over. You can either take this whole slave cylinder off, or what I did is I just undid from where that slave cylinder goes in to the actual reservoir up there. It goes through this little hole right here. So undo it right there, or take that whole thing out, or another way is just to take this off. But with this garagistic stainless steel line I have, it's kind of hard to get to that last bolt, so I just figured I'd just take the whole thing off. After you do that, you're gonna want to come to the strut tower on the top. You're gonna undo both of your struts. So there's gonna be 3 13mm bolts on each one of them. So drop those, and you're gonna have to kind of pull it down and out down and out towards away from the car. You do that. My car didn't have the brakes connected because I'm currently rebuilding it, but so there's going to be, obviously your brake lines are going to be hooked up. You can either undo it from the caliper or from up here and just take all of it out together. Kind of just whatever you want to do, whatever situation you're in. Like my brakes weren't actually connected, so I just have them hanging here. So after you do that, you do the strut towers. There's only going to be 2 more things holding this engine in, and it's going to be the lollipop bushings that hold on right here. There's going to be 2 bolts, 2 17mm on both sides. I like to do those ones first, the lollipops. So you undo both those, take them all the way out. Then you're going to have to put something under your lift so you can lower it enough for the engine to sit on it. So I've done this probably 3 or 4 times. The best way I figured out is just putting pallets. So I just have 2 layers of pallets, and then you're going to lower the car all the way till the subframe sits on the pallet, okay? And then you're going to want to come under. So there's still going to be room right here for the subframe, right? As you can see off this side of this pallet. So you're going to get another 17, it's going to be another 17 mil bolt. There's going to be a super long one coming out right here, and then a little bit of a shorter one coming out right here. You got to sit it down on the pallet jack, and then just take those bolts completely out on both sides. Once you have those done, you're basically ready to lift the chassis up. So after you unhook all that stuff, go to your lift, pull it up slowly because sometimes you might forget something. That's all I had to do on my motor, but mine wasn't completely together, so there might be a couple things I was missing. You want to bring the engine harness through. If you're planning on leaving the engine harness in the actual chassis itself, you can come and unhook everything else. So there's going to be crank sensor, spark plug wires, fuel injection wires, and then I believe the fuel relay. So if you come over here, basically all this stuff. So this is going to go to the starter. You got the diagnostic plug, all the relays. So basically you can leave all this in there as long as you just unhook everything from the actual engine itself. So after you get all that done, start lifting up the chassis slowly, just make sure if anything else is still hooked up. And yeah, basically once you pull it up, you have everything out just like this. Another thing that I found pretty easy, so when I first put this motor in, I just put it on the subframe and then basically put the transmission on after. If you got these Condor rising mounts, to get to this top bell housing bolt is seriously, it's like almost impossible. So if you want to get that torque down right, just basically pull the engine off of the subframe with a engine hoist, and then do whatever work you're going to do to it, and then just put it all back on the subframe, put the transmission back on, and basically just put it in the same way you took it out. Lower the car down onto it, put everything back where it needs to go, and yeah. I'll try to make a video demonstrating on how to put it back in the chassis when I do that later today, or sorry, later this month probably. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. That's how you get your M20 out of your E30. If you guys have any questions, just let me know in the description, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good one.